Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be going over the book buying ban I'm supposed to be on. Yes, this is ironic that it's going up following a book haul on my channel. So last year I did not complete a challenge I set out for myself, so I was supposed to be on a book buying ban until I read 30 books off my physical TBR. Now, we had a charity book sale in my community, which I just cannot pass up. We had my birthday since that time, and my mom took me shopping for books. I got bookstore gift cards for Christmas and my birthday. Like, those are all of my excuses, okay? I did some shopping. I did not follow my book buying ban, but I'm still tracking the books I've read off my physical TBR, and I will allow myself to purchase one new exciting release after I have read the 30 books. I am going to share the first 15 of 30 with you today. I am currently at 18, but I want to do half and half. So these are the books that I've read off of my physical TBR. I would love to get my physical TBR down this year. I'm also doing a series on my book talk, focusing on reducing my physical TBR. So I am making progress, and the book buying has slowed down. So actually the book buying, I've mostly just replaced buying books for myself for buying books for others. I have been loving doing the sneaky book fairy thing for friends and people on TikTok, so I really do need to rein it in. Okay, that's enough rambling. I'm going to share the first 15 books I've read off my physical TBR for 2024. I have read many more books than these 15, but some of them were audiobooks from the library, Kindle Unlimited, all of that good stuff. Overall, I have been super pleased with the books I have been reading. We have some really highly rated books that have been sitting on my shelves for sometimes years, and they could have been a favorite way before if I would have just read them. And we also have some unhauls happening. So firstly, I have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was, of course, a 5-star read for me. I loved the audiobook of this as well. I was not expecting the twist on how the journalist and Evelyn Hugo are related. So if you're unfamiliar, we are following Evelyn Hugo, which is this like Marilyn Monroe-esque character. She was very famous through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and now she is older and she wants to recount her life to a journalist for a biography, and she had 7 husbands, and we're finding out who her true love is. This was fantastic. Next, I finally read Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. That was in my first mini TBR Star Hop vlog for the year. This is technically an unhaul because this I borrowed from my stepmom and had hoarded it on my shelves for like 2 years and didn't return it to her. So I read it, gave it 5 stars, and then gave it back to my stepmom. Firefly Lane follows 2 best friends as they grow up and become adults. It spans decades. When they meet, they are in high school and they live across the road from each other, and they are the best of friends, but 2 very different personalities and family structures, career paths, all of that. And you just follow their beautiful friendship and their lives for decades. This book made me sob, like fetal position on the couch sob. And one of our POVs, I don't want to give anything away, some of the quotes in this book really gave me, I'm going to be emotional right now, a renewed appreciation for motherhood and the hard work of being a mother, of being a stay-at-home mom versus a working mom, and just Kristen Hanna just like dove right into my soul with that book. Next, I read The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This is a thriller with some cult vibes. We are following a very wealthy family who their wealth starts to dwindle away, and then people start moving into their mansion and living upstairs, and then things start to get very, very strange in this house. This is a big mystery. There is murder. There is, I would call it, child abuse in here, a cult structure. This was very dark, very twisty, and I absolutely loved it. I can't remember if I gave it 4 or 4.5 stars, but this is a very highly rated thriller for me. Then a really quick read I was able to knock off is Spy Family Volume 3. This manga series is just so much fun. Yesterday I actually read Volume 4. I love these. We are following Twilight, who is a spy, and his mission is to infiltrate this prestigious school, but in order to do so he needs a family. So he has a bit of a sham of a marriage with Yor here, and she is actually an assassin, but Twilight doesn't know she's an assassin, and she doesn't know that Twilight is actually a spy. And then of course they need to adopt a child to enter into this prestigious school, and they don't know that the child turns out to be a telepath. The shenanigans that this found family happen into is just so funny, so entertaining. I love this manga series. Next, I have the Shepherd King Duology. I have One Dark Window, which I read and my mom is currently borrowing, and I read Two Twisted Crowns, which is the second book in the duology, and I loved this so much. This is more of a YA gothic romantasy. We are following Elspeth, and she has a monster living inside her head, and the kingdom they're living in, Blunder, has this very sinister, misty curse on it. The magic system in here involves a deck of cards, which are kind of like tarot cards with magic. I loved the found family in here. The magic system was super interesting. There is a quest in the second book. The second in the duology is a major step up from the first. I give the first book 4 stars, this book 5 stars. I highly recommend this series. The next two are a little bit disappointing. So first, my pre-order for House of Flame and Shadows came in, and I read it immediately, of course. I was pretty disappointed with this book. I gave it a 4 stars on Goodreads, I think. I think it's more of a 3, but I don't have the heart to change it. I much prefer the first 2 books in this series. This just didn't go in a direction that I loved, and I felt like Bryce was, I don't like her character arc. I don't like the changes she has made, the development she has had. It's just, I don't love her like I did. So this was kind of a disappointment. Another thriller that was on my shelves for a million years, The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I really did not like this book. I gave it 2 stars. I will put this in my unhaul pile. I don't want to keep it. We are following Rachel, who is an alcoholic, and she goes on the train into work each day. So the same commute there and back, and you pick up on the same sort of people going to the same places when you are commuting, especially on public transit. And she starts to notice something a bit strange going on, but because she's an alcoholic, she's a really unreliable narrator, and she has blackouts. You can't trust what she's saying, and every character in here is unlikable. Every character in here is untrustworthy, and I just feel like I don't like that structure in a thriller. Like, in my opinion, there were no way for me to connect the dots to come up with the conclusion on my own or figure out the mystery of this, because everyone was lying, and I just didn't like it. Another book that I did not like was Happenstance by Tessa Bailey. I will also be adding this to my unhaul pile, which I'm kind of sad about, because Tessa Bailey is a really hit or miss author for me. I've loved some of her books, I've hated some of her books, and my husband actually bought this for me, so I feel kind of bad, but I also don't want it taking up space on my shelf. This is a Why Choose romance where we're following Elise, and her and these three men get trapped on this tram car. The power gets cut, it's winter, she's cold, and they form this relationship from there. Elise, what is it about her that is so interesting that would have these three very different and successful in their own right men tripping over themselves for her? Like, I just didn't get it. It was a fun read, but like logically didn't make sense. I don't like Elise, though I liked some of our male characters, so this one wasn't for me either. I read 2 books from the Chestnut Springs series. I have Heartless and Powerless. I gave Heartless 5 stars, Powerless 4 stars. I really love this small town cowboy romance series by Elsie Silver, and I'm really enjoying my time buddy reading through them with bookish bestie Sam. I am so sad. I have the people covers for 4 of the books, but I was not fast enough in getting Hopeless, the last book in the series, in this cover because the covers had already changed and there was a very limited number of people covers for that last book, which is super disappointing to me. But overall, I love this series so much. Heartless is a grumpy sunshine, single dad nanny romance, and Powerless is childhood friends to lovers. Jasper is a hockey player and Sloane is a ballerina who leaves her fiance at the altar and escapes a terrible marriage with Jasper. So these were both a lot of fun. Next up, I have Never by Jessa Hastings. This is her new series, which is a fantasy romance series in Neverland, so a Peter Pan retelling. I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it 4 stars. This, I might as well talk about this one at the same time. This, Jessa Hastings followed the original Peter Pan classic more closely than the Disney Peter Pan, and I think that is an important distinction to make. How Peter acts in the original classic, his original archetype, like of his character, some of the things that happen in here are represented in here. And if you liked Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, it's similar in that we are following potentially unlikable characters making poor decisions. It is very much like a character-driven story. We are diving into what Peter Pan and Neverland would be like if they were a little bit older. I don't know. I had a really wonderful time with this. I loved the fantastical elements in here, and I'm really excited to continue with this series. This, however, I hated and didn't rate on Goodreads. The blatant racism in this book. I actually intended to borrow this from Wyatt, my middle child. I took it off his bookshelf. It has his name in the cover, and I won't put it back. He's quite upset with me, but there were so many things that I do not condone and I don't want my young child to read. I understand that this is a different time. This was written in 1911, I believe, but any of the whimsy and nostalgia maybe that Peter Pan has for me was like the racism was ruined it for me in this book. So, and also the whimsy in the writing didn't work for me in here. It was just confusing for the sake of being confusing. So did not enjoy this. I will keep it because it's a beautiful HarperCollins Children's Classic Edition. It is my son's and was gifted to him, but I'm going to put it on a top shelf, classic shelf on my bookshelf, and I will maybe let him read this when he's older. Oh boy, we are ending on a low note. So Peter Pan was a low note. These next two are also low notes. Sorry about that. I have Marked by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. This was a reread for me, which I did say rereads won't count. I didn't count my reread of House of Earth and Blood or Sky and Breath. There were a few other books I reread I did not include, but it had been over 15 years since I read these, so I thought I would be able to count them. This was pulled in that TBR takedown challenge I'm doing on TikTok, and I thought that this would be a super nostalgic, homey, fun read, but I really didn't like this on reread. I gave it 2 stars. I don't even know, like, this is a very YA vampire school setting type book, and it just didn't work for me. I have 10 books of this series on my shelves that I bought at a yard sale. I will read the next 1 or 2 and then decide if I'm going to unhaul the whole series or not. But I really didn't like this book. And lastly, I also did not like this book. Sorry, I should have reorganized this a bit better, but here we are. This is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I gave this 2.5 stars to be generous. I did not like this. I know that's sacrilegious to say as a fantasy reader. This book, if you have insomnia, this could be the solution. This book put me to sleep on my couch countless times. And it almost started to be like this mental, what do you call that? Like Pavlov effect, where it happened so many times that I tried to read this in the middle of the afternoon, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and fell asleep. Like it started to be every time I picked this up, I was so tired, I just immediately fell asleep. It was the weirdest thing. Now, the parts that were action heavy, parts that did move the plot along, I really enjoyed. There's so much convoluted detail in here that I found it incredibly boring. I'm so sorry if The Lord of the Rings is your favorite series. I will finish it out because I was gifted the full series and I feel that I should keep the classics on my shelf, so I want to read them, but I did not like this first book. Wow, so those were 15 books I read off of my physical TBR so far in 2024. We had some highs, some lows. I feel like we didn't really have much middle of the road. Did we have any 3 stars? House of Flame and Shadow. But everything else was like 4 or 5 stars or like 2, 2.5 stars. So kind of a mixed bag. We have some unhauls in here. Technically Firefly Lane, though it being a 5-star, was an unhaul because I no longer have it on my shelf, but I do hope to own that book someday because I did love it so much. But we have some space to put those books that I hauled onto the shelves finally. I now have floor stacks, which is super, super bad. I'm going to stop rambling. Let me know if you are also prioritizing reading books off your physical TBR this year. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up so that I know, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!